He's Sourena Vasegi, the speaker who can't speak and the writer who can't write. And my name is Chris Stevenson. I work with Sourena at the Sourena V Group, and we're here on Chasing Dreams with Amy J.
Fantastic. All right, let's go. Hey, Dream Chasers, this is Amy J, and thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 223 of Chasing Dreams. For full disclosure, in these latest months, that lets you know we are recording this episode in March when we are probably sheltering in place during the coronavirus. And so this episode is airing in May. And so we can't tell what's going to happen in May. We may still be sheltering in place. We may be out and about, but I know that we'll probably be still feeling the after effects of COVID-19. And so just keep that in mind, guys, that as we record, we are not magicians. We are not we're not psychic. We can't tell you what's going to happen. So we're just going to speak in the moment where we are today, if that works for everybody. So Sourena, Chris, thank you guys so much for joining us. Much appreciated. And thank you, Sourena, for reaching out to share your story. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So Sourena, it's interesting. You have cerebral palsy, correct?
Yes, by the way, why does that have to be so hard to say? Especially for a guy with a speech impediment. Why couldn't they just call it It'd probably be a little easier to say.
That probably would have been easier. And it's interesting because I had a friend who had cerebral palsy, and she was in her 40s, I believe, when she passed away. She had it at birth, which is common for those with cerebral palsy, but she also had a speech impediment, which made it difficult, and motor capabilities that were impeded. And she didn't have as much of a fulfilled life. I can't say that. Let me not speak for her. But you have done things that I have not seen in her life or in the lives of others with cerebral palsy. You have a successful business. You have a beautiful family. You have a speaking and writing career. It's phenomenal. Congratulations on all of the success, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do this without having a good mindset.
I can imagine. And so let's actually talk about that. When you were younger and you were going about your day-to-day life, what was your mindset like?
Well, I really got my mind, but my mindset was his mindset was given to him by his parents. Because they didn't act like victims. Like it was a big deal. Victims. Oh, they taught him not to act like a victim. And my mom did everything. And his mom would do everything that sort of a mom of a normal non-cerebral palsy child would do. And so, after the mother told me that I could have a good life. And he had people tell him, his parents told him that he could have a good life. And they never complained. They never complained. They never complained? Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing after getting to know Sourena that I found really fascinating was he'll tell you that as a child, he really didn't feel different because every child needs a parent to take him to the park, to throw him in the car. He just had a chair, right? It was a little different, but he felt like everybody else. And it was when he hit high school towards college is where he started to feel like, I'm really, really different because he started to see all his friends driving and dating and then starting to go away from college. And that's when it got really challenging for him. Well, I would agree. I had to my life. He said, I always knew, though, he had big dreams and big plans for his life. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what I love about your story, Sourena, is that you didn't let things hold you back. I mean, there were a lot of people who are in a different place, have their own struggles in a different way. But when we look at what you've done and what you've overcome and what you've made work, some of us feel kind of lazy. I gotta say.
He said, I didn't overcome anything.
Oh.
Let me check. Yep, still handicapped.
I do challenges. I don't overcome anything.
He said he doesn't overcome things. He just deals with the challenges on a daily basis with the right mindset.
That's amazing.
Challenges are fluid. They don't go away. You can't change.
So as Sourena said, sometimes you'll have these challenges or these issues that you have to deal with because they don't necessarily go away. It's something that throughout the process of your career and your life, you're always dealing with it. So having that right mindset keeps you in the right frame of mind to see these as just not problems, but challenges that you deal with as part of your routine.
One of the issues that I see today with the coronavirus, and you gotta do
So he said in dealing like with the coronavirus, for example, people are like, how are we going to overcome this? And he's like, we're not. We're going to deal with it until it runs its course. And there'll be challenges all along the way that you simply have to have the right mindset for to deal with.
So for both of you, or mostly Sourena, when you were young, how do you deal with that? How do you get that mindset? You said your parents treated you like your normal child. Was that all it took, or did you do something intentionally to have such a positive mindset?
But I always love life.
He said he always loved life.
I love dictating my dreams. No handicap.
And he wanted to dictate his dreams, not be dictated by his handicap.
I don't my handicap dictate a lot.
My handicap does dictate a lot,
But I limit that.
but he limits that.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal because I read in your book, and I haven't finished it. I'm still reading it. Big dreams take small sacrifices. And you were talking about how your friends came back from high school and they were talking about their experiences in college, and you had done community college and then transferred to was it Stanford?
No, I think he said UCLA.
UCLA.
No, USC. I always do that. And that's the benefit of being a translator. I've made him say that on so many stages. It's USC.
So you go to USC because you felt you were missing out on the experience. That's phenomenal then.
Why don't you tell her the story about the phone call?
So I was at community
So Sourena was at community college.
USC.
And his friends were at USC.
And I was in a 1 year depression.
And I was in about a year-long depression.
Because it was like, oh no, I had to go. I'm not that going. We're going to jail. It was my friend going to jail.
So he was thinking if it weren't for my handicap, I would be there too. And his friends would call all the time and tell him how great USC was. What would they tell you about?
I mean,
The academics, the girls, the campus, the girls, more girls. So he was on the phone. He got a call, and his buddy was telling him how great this was. And he hung up the phone, and he just started to cry. And his dad came up and said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "There's only one thing to say. I'm going to USC." And his dad asked how. Oh, he said he gave him the best answer. I don't know.
An honest answer.
And he
how much it costs to do so.
But when he found out how much it cost, he knew he was crazy.
So the thing that's awesome though is that you've come out of college, you started a business, you now are the speaker who doesn't speak, the writer who doesn't write. Did I say that correctly?
Yep.
Yeah. And you're still making a way because you want to make a difference in people's lives. Where does that motivation and push and purpose come from? Is it from seeing other people or is it from inherently?
Experiences.
What really drives him are experiences.
I absolutely love experiences.
He absolutely loves experiences.
Like, I love big experiences. I love small experiences. I love all kinds of experiences.
And you love
All kinds of experiences.
all kinds of experiences.
Where I, so I said to my handicap around me a lot. I said to my handicap around me a lot.
You do not want to let your handicap run you.
Yeah. Which Sunday it does.
Sometimes it still does.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I've learned in working with Sourena, and by the way, just really briefly to put it into context, I have owned a couple different health clubs. I come from the fitness space, and Sourena was a member. And I just got to know him because he's the kind of guy who's always interacting with everybody. And he came in and worked with a trainer, and his goal was to be able to pull himself out of a chair onto the floor, then up and over a step, and then back into his chair. So that was his goal. As you know, some of us go to the gym to like look better, feel better, lose weight, get rid of back pain. That was his goal. Was very functional, and he did it. But one day I came in just to say hi to him as I was walking through the club, and he goes, "Hey, do you want to keynote speak with me?" And I was like, because I didn't know him on a personal level, I was like, "What? You can't be." He goes, "Trust me, I'm the speaker who can't speak." And sure enough, after working together, and I do keynotes with him and presentations with him where I help him tell his story sort of just as a translator. So it's been a great experience for me from a motivational standpoint. And Sourena sometimes gets humble about his own success, but he's got that lockdown mindset. And I don't know if he'll admit it or not, but he sort of has a chip on his shoulder where he's like, I will not let this handicap stop me from anything. And not only that, I want to show everybody else how to deal with what their challenges are so that they can accomplish anything. And he's, I've seen him help tons of people, including myself. And it's just been a pretty crazy, awesome experience.
You beat me to it, Chris. That was going to be my next question is how did you guys meet and interact? That's totally fine. So you guys have been working together though for a few years now. Is that correct?
Sure. I'm in
The 2010?
Yeah,
Yeah, so 2010.
Oh, 10 years.
It seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
And so now you're doing this stuff. Let me ask you, Sourena, in the people you've helped, in the environments you've been in, because you've been all over the place, right? You're not limited to just schools or anything like that. You've had a variety of people in your audience. What is a common theme or takeaway that you've gotten from the people that you can share, a lesson that you could share with our audience right now? Because you've probably met a lot of different people. What's something common that they're struggling with that you could probably give us some advice on?
Gratitude.
Good attitude?
No, gratitude.
Oh, gratitude?
Yeah. I have really gratitude. I have really gratitude.
You have them create a month of gratitude?
I have really gratitude.
Oh, he has a good example of gratitude.
Yeah, my
His right hand doesn't work at all.
Yeah, my left hand works not fully well. I can touch it.
And his left hand works well enough that he can drive his chair and do certain things.
Yeah, if I'm making the rest of myself, I can, I can, I can laugh whenever I can tap on the big keyboard.
So he can do things like tap on a specialized big keyboard for his writing, and he can do basic things on his phone.
Well, it's no agenda, but whatever, more
Yeah.
we're actually anything.
Yeah, so in comparing his arms, again, his right arm has to be pinned behind his back all the time, and his left hand has some mobility and works to some extent. And I remember hearing, to kind of summarize what Sourena was saying, somebody came up to him and said, "Are you angry that your right arm doesn't work?" He's like, "Yeah, but I'm certainly grateful that my left arm does."
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, one other thing, mindset is not fixed.
Oh, another thing Sourena works with people on is mindset, and one of the big things he teaches is that mindset is not fixed.
It can change.
It can change
Almost daily.
almost daily.
Yeah, because you might say it can change. It's not because you are on the freeway. It's not because you are on the freeway. You might say you can change.
Oh, he said, as an example, you're driving on the freeway and somebody cuts you off and your mindset changes.
Very true.
The coronavirus. Yeah, can you mindset?
Oh, with the coronavirus, your mindset's going to change.
But it's up to you to get back to optimal form.
It's up to you to get back to your optimum form
Keep in the mindset.
and keep improving your mindset. I know one thing that Sourena taught me that I have, it's so funny because I get to work with him and translate his incredible messages and that sort of thing to the general public. But I feel like I get the benefit of also learning from him on a regular basis. And one thing that Sourena taught me about, which I never really thought about in a concrete way, was this thing he calls rewriting your narrative. You know, he says we're all born with a certain narrative. You're born to a certain economic status. You're born with a certain set of parents that maybe are loving or maybe they're not. And you kind of are born into this thing where people in the formative years while your brain's developing and absorbing information, they tell you this is what works. This is what's going to be. This is how you're going to be. This is how you're going to succeed. And part of fixing your mindset to develop that growth mindset is rewriting your own narrative.
Yeah, because up until 30, we do a lot of emotions. We react with emotions.
We work a lot with emotions.
Yeah, not logic. Not logic.
Oh, people work with emotion, not logic.
And you
You got to rewrite that narrative.
Even now with the coronavirus.
Even now with the coronavirus.
You got to narrative. You got to adapt. Narrative.
To adapt.
And deal with that.
In order to deal with the day-to-day. I think, and one thing that Sourena will talk about is, you know, as human beings, physiologically, we're wired to have negative things impact us so heavily. And unfortunately, the positive doesn't have that same impact. So you need like 10 positive things to offset one negative. And it's that story, Sourena will say he gets up in the morning, has 3 great meetings with clients, then does a great keynote, and then writes another couple great articles, like, and then plays with his children, all this great stuff, and then has one bad phone call where somebody cancels their coaching. They're like, oh, I'm just not satisfied. And then 6 more great things happen. And then his wife says, how was your day? And he goes, terrible.
Because
when in actuality, the logic says, no, it wasn't. You had 10 great things and only one little tiny bad thing. So Sourena works with that narrative and understanding that most, you got to focus on the real and not the feel.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit because you kind of opened the door there, Sourena, to about emotional thinking versus logical thinking. And I think a lot of us, as you said, think emotionally in terms of fear, right? And just, I think fear actually, just not even anything else. Fear drives so many of us to not pursue things we want. How would you advise us to kind of work on that so that we get the right mindset and not let fear and emotion in a negative way control us?
Great question, by the way. Great question.
First, we don't know whether for clovers, centered success.
First,
We gotta wire for success.
find our why for success.
We gotta wire a bit in the wires.
We got to find out why.
No, we gotta wire for success.
Oh, we are not wired for success.
We gotta wire to stay safe.
We're wired to stay. We're not wired for success. We're wired to stay safe.
Yeah, because we're wired not to get eaten. We're wired not to get eaten. We are wired not
Oh, we're wired not to take chances.
to get
Very
eaten.
true.
Get eaten. Get eaten.
To get eaten?
Yeah,
Oh, just physiologically, we're wired with our stress mechanism to not get eaten.
yeah, that's how we are. So we are not wired for success.
So we're not wired for success.
We're because we know our diet is huge. Merchandise, huge merchandise,
Huge
diet,
diet.
diet,
Diet.
and merchandise.
Oh, emotional diet.
Yeah, what emotions are you consuming?
So a great term, and I had heard this for the first time in some of Sorena's recent writing, he's talking about is emotional diet. And that's something that people don't pay attention to. The coronavirus is a great example. We get, and you have to be informed and you have to know, but we get obsessed. And even SiriusXM has a 24-hour coronavirus station. And by the way, I listened, it's not fun.
Yeah.
But you know, what we do is we tend to dwell on the negative, dwell on the emotion. We watch CNN and Fox for 24 hours of coverage, 7 days a week. And Sourena said, yes, you have to be informed, but you got to find other things in your emotional diet, like the walks outside, taking in some sun, spending time with the people you love at a socially acceptable distance right now, reading books, talking to people on the phone that motivate you. You have to plan to have those things as a part of your life.
The other night, I get an email from the guy, how do you write a book?
The other night, he got an email from a guy that said, hey, how do you write a book?
You.
It was me.
Yeah. And then, I love that.
You love that.
Yeah.
That drives you.
Yeah.
And Amy, one other kind of brief thing just to add on. So as part of my career, I worked at the California Health and Longevity Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of executive wellness that dealt with stress management, communication skills, of course, the exercise and nutrition piece. And one of the people that I worked with was an expert on communication and sort of stress management and fear. And what we studied and researched that fear boils down to three things. Every fear you have in your life boils down to something is unknown.
Mm-hmm.
You have no control over it, or you're simply not worthy. It's self-worth. And if you look at, and to the listeners, if you examine things where you have fear in your life, I guarantee you one or more of those things are present. Now, the way we deal with that is with anger or alcohol or isolation. We just pull away, and there's a bunch of different negative ways to deal with it. But the one thing you can do in the face of fear, and I think it's the most important thing that we found, was simply reach out for support. That's the key. So in any of those situations, reach out to mentors like yourself or like Sourena, or reach out to positive influences and say, hey, and tell them exactly, I'm really concerned because I have no control over this, or I don't feel worthy at this point, those sort of things. But reaching out for support is really the biggest key in dealing with fear.
The number I can that I can have a DRC I would be actually well in the bathroom.
So, and this is, by the way, was one of the things that I learned, and I'll share what Sourena just said, working with him, that probably inspired me the most, and kind of really helped fix my mindset. But Sourena said the number one thing that was keeping him from going to USC was the fear of asking someone to help him in the bathroom.
And when they go over that, the rest was easy.
Once I got over that, the rest was easy. And I had told him when I heard that story for the first time, I'm like, what humility it
Yeah.
takes to ask for something that only his parents and his helper had helped him up to that point.
Right.
It's just incredible, the humility, and you always tell people that you did it, and then you didn't die from embarrassment.
Yeah, I did.
It's always worse than it actually is.
Always.
Always worse in our heads.
Yeah.
When you're successful, nobody can quite for having a team.
When you're successful,
Nobody will quite for having a team.
nobody will call you out for having a team. How many people did you have when you worked at USC that helped you? 10 people.
Wow.
I had
Awesome.
some people. Everybody said that you.
So I was trying to say they never met each other because I was afraid if they did, they would start a union.
So, Sourena, when you when you deal with the fear that emotion brings, right, and you get into that right mindset, you're still probably facing some things. And I know a lot of the dream chasers who are listening now, aside from fear, one of the things they think about, probably overthink about, is limits on their abilities, limits on their beliefs and limiting beliefs, things that they can't accomplish. I want to be a doctor. I'm not smart enough, right? It's not a fear. It's something else they put upon themselves. How do you address that? How do you address the limits we put upon ourselves? Because it seems like you've dealt with a lot of limits others may have put upon you or without knowing you, but you've made it through. How can we handle that?
Can you be part of that life?
Challenges are always going to be a part of life.
Don't fight it, accept it.
Don't fight it, accept it.
There will be obstacles that you can't deal with.
And there will be
Obstacles that you can't
do anything about.
Yeah, but there will be a new path. There will be a path.
So sometimes you'll have obstacles that you can't do anything about, so you discover a new path.
I want to work in.
For example,
I want to work in downtown LA.
Oh, he wanted to work in downtown LA.
Well, no, really. I need a job where my disability would be part of my business.
Then he realized, he needed a job where it would work with the disability, whereas getting to downtown LA every day, that's not even good for somebody without cerebral palsy, by the way. But
that's why I'll be.
So I built out a home office.
I have a team who said to I need as an entrepreneur and as a disabled person.
And he has a team, some to assist with his disability and some to help him as an entrepreneur.
I understand that my talents need to be considered in everything I do.
You realize that
my talents need to be involved in everything I do.
he understands that his challenges will be involved in everything he does.
I am lucky, but that's my reality.
I don't like it, but it's my reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, Sourena will talk again with that. If you accept and own the challenge, then you feel like you have power over it, as opposed to looking at it as, it's that simple mindset, the shift of the word. It's not a problem. It's a challenge, because problems stop you, where challenges are just things you find solutions for. So don't ignore them. And we can even subconsciously ignore, like, no, I'm just going to, that sort of thing. Just accept it. Hey, here's my challenges. Write them down, list them out, and start to figure out ways to deal with them.
Well, I feel like that's a big one, right? Even just saying it was powerful, I think. Challenges are part of life. Accept it and don't fight it. And that mindset of just changing the perception of what a challenge is, already just from you saying it, I'm like, oh, snap. Yeah, that does change how I would approach it, because I'm not as looking at it, I'm not at a level 10 in stress. I'd probably be at a level 4, because now there's something about changing that perception of what it is, good or bad, that I think makes the difference. And that's a very powerful sentiment to say, you're not going to not face challenges. It's a part of life. We may not like it. That's fine, but accept it. And I think that changes the game for a lot of people when you start thinking of it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, some days are going to suck.
Yeah.
You got to accept it. I remember one of the first times we did a keynote as I was getting to know Sourena, and I asked him on stage in front of this massive audience. I said, and he's the inspirational guy. And I said, tell everybody what it's like to have cerebral palsy, to which he said, it sucks.
Were you expecting a deep answer?
Yes, I was. And then he said, yeah, he goes, what do you want me to say? I love it. You got to try it. But in that all leading into, hey, some parts of, being an entrepreneur and chasing dreams, you're going to have difficulties. You're going to have challenges, and there are parts that will suck, but they're a part of it. You accept it. You figure out ways to deal with it, and you own it. And that helps you get through those tough times.
I remember he said, dude, I hate saying this
I called you and said, I hate
saying this smell.
Oh, true. When I was a club operator, I did hate telling people that they smelled at the gym when I would have to. And Sourena said, he gave me the best advice of all time. He said, deal with it. Go up to them, tell them they smell, and be done.
Listen, we appreciate you taking that fight for us and letting people know it. Listen, we appreciate that because some people just don't understand the meaning of a shower. And, you did quality work there, okay? So, Chris, know it's appreciated, even if I wasn't there at the moment.
Thank you.
Pretty sure I speak for the people that were there. So what I love about all of this...
Yes, he said I was a Power Ranger, which is true. I did stunts for the kids show Power Rangers, so
oh, nice.
That was also anytime I was came to him for any help, and he was like, "Dude, you're a Power Ranger. Go do it." And I was like, "Oh, I was a stunt guy, but that was a little different."
What I love is the mindset that you guys have said. It's very consistent throughout the talk that we are having here today. Is one, challenges are there, accept it. Two, have a mindset that helps, right? Kind of dealing with it versus overcoming with it or trying to think. Because I feel like if we have a challenge by using your approach, which is accepting it and kind of seeing it as part of it versus something fighting us, we're already going with the flow. Like there's an automatic, you're moving forward by just accepting that. And it sounds like it helps a lot of people.
Yeah, really, that's how I grew up.
And really, that's how he grew up.
My mom never complained that they have a handicap kid. They never complained that they have a handicap kid. And that was so awesome as a so.
So he was saying, my parents never complained. They worked hard. They never once complained about the challenges that came with having a handicapped child. And that really inspired and motivated him.
And would you guys both say in the work that you're doing, in the challenges you've addressed in your life, would you both say separately, so Chris also answered the question, for both of you, would you say that right now with what you've done, where you've come from and what you've gone through, you're happy with where you are today, living a life you're happy with?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And for myself, I've had my ups and downs in the same way. And I think ultimately, understanding where you want to go and more importantly, why you want to go there, I think that's the fundamental driver, because when you have that fundamental deep reason for doing what you do or wanting to do what you do, that's what drives you when the road gets bumpy. That's what allows you to shift your mindset from problem to challenge. And it also helps me personally to have someone like Sourena next to me, because anytime I remotely have any type of excuse, he's like, oh, really? Is something challenging for you? So Sourena just inherently takes away your excuses. We had another friend of ours that did some work with us, and he was like, oh, my knee really hurts. And Sorena's like, oh, really? Oh, does your knee hurt? Have you seen me? So Sourena just naturally takes away your excuses and keeps you motivated.
And what happiness and opportunity is a choice.
Oh, happiness and opportunity is a choice.
Optimism.
And
Optimism.
optimism?
Yeah.
Oh, happiness and optimism is a choice.
And it's not that it would be a lot more challenging.
Yeah, if you don't accept that, things are a lot more challenging.
Yeah.
It's true. All right, guys. Well, I love our conversation, but it's now time to get to know you a little bit better. All right. The box of questions are here. I'm going to ask you guys 5 questions. Chris, you're going to answer also. So we're going to get an answer from Sourena and an answer from you. All right?
All right.
They are random. I just pick. I have no control over the cards unless it's a bad question, then I choose to take it out. All right, ready? Question number 1. What do you have a hard time saying no to?
My kids.
His kids.
I can see that.
My
What
kids
about
are
you?
my kids are older, so I have no problem saying no to them. Overall, and I've gotten better. I've had trouble saying no when people ask for anything, and you have to
Really?
be able to say no to be efficient with it. You know, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? It's just what I do. So I've gotten better at it, but just had a hard time saying no to people who need help.
Guys, there's a power in no. Just know
I
that.
know. Yes. Oh, I know.
All right. Number 2. Who was the best teacher you've had?
My mom.
So I said his mom.
My mom had the best. My mom might be way better than mine. My mom might be way better than mine.
Your mom is way better.
Mine.
Oh, his mom's mindset is way better than his.
Yeah, I can't get it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate to duplicate, but my mom as well. Single mother, double shifts, work, taught me how to do laundry, cook, clean, still got my
Can't
homework
blame you.
done.
I
Yeah.
understand. Can't blame you there.
Mama did.
That's the respect.
Mama Jessie.
All right. Number 3. Who was the best James Bond?
I made
He has no idea. I would have to say Roger Moore, only because I was young. Oh, I was young, and it was my first exposure to Bond. So that will
Sean
always
Connery.
be fresh in my mind.
Sean Connery. Connery.
Uh,
I'm always going to be a Sean Connery kind of guy. Yeah.
well, thank you very much.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. All
That's
right, I'm gonna give you another number 3. I have a feeling you guys are gonna answer your mom again, so I'm gonna skip that. It was who served as your role model.
Yeah.
So yeah, I figured you'd say your mom. What are you passionate enough about to fight for?
You can hear it with Flair.
He said I would say Ric Flair for role model.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, so what was the question?
Question, I think we're redoing it. So 3, what are you passionate enough about to fight for?
Okay. I do. Passion.
So he said, first of all, I don't like the word passion.
I read the cards.
Andy, what the definition of passion?
Oh, he said, because the definition of passion is an uncontrollable urge or emotion.
If you want to get successful, if you want to get
You must really not like it to know the definition. Just say it.
successful, you gotta work against your natural emotions.
Yeah, he said, if you want to be successful, you can't work on passion or emotion. So anyway, so how about enthusiastic about? Something you're so enthusiastic about, you'd fight for it.
You.
Oh, me.
There you go. Chris, yours?
I it's not equality, but I mean, we should all fight for equality, but it's sort of injustice. It's those people who are unwilling to stand up for themselves,
Yeah.
who are getting taken advantage of or wronged. I go to bat for those type of people.
Yeah, I can't stand, the biggest example, that would be my answer too, are bullies.
Yeah.
I just, bullies. I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah.
Number 4, what's the funniest commercial on TV that you've seen?
You don't know?
You go first.
I go first.
Oh.
Okay, so I don't know if Amy, you saw over the holidays they did that Peloton commercial
Yes.
with all the uproar, but then I don't know if you saw the Ryan Reynolds.
Yes, the spoof.
Oh, the gin commercial was fantastic when they're like, "Oh, girl, you look good," and she drinks like 3 drinks. First of all, I'm a big Ryan Reynolds fan. Oh, he said he liked that one too. I thought it was brilliant.
It was funny. It was funny.
Oh, I think NFL 100 commercial. NFL 100 commercial.
Oh, the NFL 100 commercial?
Yeah, we did.
That was funny too.
Everyone,
Oh, with everybody in the NFL? Yeah, it was
Mhm.
great.
That was a good one. All right, last question. What are your favorite apps on your phone?
well, it's funny because I really can't even.
He said, it's funny because I really can't use my phone.
Touche. Touche.
Yeah, I gave up on like that. What my phone at time?
Oh, what your phone has taught you?
Yeah. But I can't do one out that I can use. Get one out that I can.
Oh, the one app you can use?
Yeah.
Oh, it's ESPN. He's figured out how to use the ESPN app.
Yeah.
It's a good app.
Yeah.
I don't do that right now.
Not using it too much right now.
Not right now, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
I mean, I use a bunch. I love Blinkist because it reviews books in 5 to 10 minutes. So if you don't have time to read a ton, you can go through that. I love Blinkist. I love the TED Talks app because you can select the amount of time, the categories. From a practicality standpoint, I've got a great to-do app and an app called TripIt where I travel a lot and speak a lot. So you automatically forward your itineraries into it, and then it spells it all out, airports, location, the walk between connections. So it's just a very efficient way and gives you the alerts on your Apple Watch. TripIt is and it's free. Great app.
Handy, guys. We will have those noted in the show notes. Guys, thank you so much, Chris, Sourena. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it so much. Learned a lot. I think you guys got a lot out of it too. How can these guys connect with you after the show? If they want to follow you, find you, where should they go?
Sourena.com.
Yeah, and we are all platforms.
Sourena V?
All platforms.
So Sourena www.sourena.com and Sourena V on all of the social platforms. For myself, it's Chris at Stevenson, STEVENSON, empowers, EMPOWERS.com.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much again. I appreciate it.
No TikTok, no Snapchat. No TikTok, no Snapchat.
Oh, he said no TikTok and no Snapchat.
That's fair. I'm not really a TikTok person. I have an account. I just haven't used it yet.
Yeah.
Guys, you can find all of the show notes and learn more about these guys over on the show notes page at amyj21.com/episode 223. That's episode 223. Thank you guys once again. Until next time, Dream Chasers, keep chasing.